Picture this. It's 1946, and the scorching Nevada sun hammers down on miles of unforgiving sand, where a dapper New Yorker emerges from a beaten-up sedan, his eyes locked on a future empire of lights and luck. That visionary was Benjamin Bugsy Siegel, whose daring bet ignited the Mafia's transformation of Las Vegas from a sleepy dust bowl into the ultimate den of indulgence. This era shimmered with promise, but hit a core of violence, deceit, and fortune siphoned from the heart of the casinos. Dive into the saga, from Siegel's shocking 1947 assassination to the FBI's ironclad crackdown in the 1980s, exploring how kingpins like Meyer Lansky and the fearsome Tony Spilotro wielded power, mingled with silver screen icons, and orchestrated daring thefts that built shadowy dynasties. But empires crumble. Watch as we expose the operations that shattered their hold. As Siegel famously sneered, "We only kill each other." Yet the Nevada sands whisper of countless unmarked fates.
Folks, Bugsy's dream wasn't just about neon and nightlife. It was a blueprint for organized crime to go legit on the surface while pulling strings in the shadows. I've chased these stories for years, and let me tell you, the glamour hid some seriously dark dealings. What gets me is how a barren wasteland became a billion-dollar beast overnight. The mob didn't just build casinos, they engineered an illusion of endless wins, all while lining their pockets.
Born February 28, 1906, in the gritty Williamsburg section of Brooklyn, Benjamin Siegel came from a humble Jewish immigrant household. His folks, Jenny and Max, had fled pogroms in what's now Ukraine and Poland, scraping by in America's melting pot. School didn't hold him. By his early teens, Ben was out on the streets, shaking down local vendors for protection fees in Manhattan's Lower East Side. It was 1918 when he crossed paths with Meyer Lansky, born in 1902 in Russian territory and arriving stateside in 1911, another clever kid from a struggling family who prized intellect in a world of fists. They launched the Bugs and Meyer mob, merging Siegel's explosive personality with Lansky's sharp calculations. The 1920 Prohibition kickoff, banning booze nationwide, pulled them deeper into hijackings, illicit betting, and hits for hire, linking up with Italian powerhouses like Lucky Luciano. Siegel's Bugsy tag stuck due to his erratic rage. Woe to anyone using it lightly. Lansky, ever the thinker, mused, "Money doesn't care where it comes from. It's all the same in the end." Their exploits paved the way for grander schemes, luring Siegel to California in the 1930s, where he schmoozed with film legends like Gary Cooper and dated starlets, blending thug life with Tinseltown shine. This mix of raw survival instincts and celebrity allure primed him for the Vegas leap, though it also bred the hubris that would prove fatal.
You know, growing up in those immigrant enclaves wasn't easy. It's what forged guys like Bugsy and Meyer into survivors. I always think about how one wrong turn on those streets could end it all, but they turned it into an empire. What gets me is how a barren wasteland became a billion-dollar beast overnight. The mob didn't just build casinos, they engineered an illusion of endless wins, all while lining their pockets.
Las Vegas in 1941 was little more than a pit stop on the rails, with gambling legalized a decade prior in 1931, but lacking sparkle until Siegel rolled in. Dispatched westward in 1937 by Lansky and Luciano to broaden operations in drugs and extortion, he spotted gold in the grit. He grabbed the El Cortez spot first, but aimed higher. Come 1945, he muscled in to Billy Wilkerson's stalled Flamingo venture, a Hollywood type who'd burned through cash. Starting at $1.5 million, the tab hit $6 million by 1946's end, bankrolled by syndicate funds via Lansky. Siegel's paramour, Virginia Hill, was said to shuttle ill-gotten gains overseas, riling the backers. The place debuted half-baked on December 26, 1946, in a downpour, sans completed suites, bombing at first. Siegel poured in upgrades, creating opulence that pulled in patrons. Lansky echoed the ambition. The goal was the pinnacle of elegance in gaming, nothing less. This plunged the mob into Vegas dominance, with Chicago's outfit under Tony Accardo, born 1906, climbing via Capone's legacy, masterminding the skim, funneling untapped hauls homeward. Siegel's star connections, like actor George Raft, infused Hollywood flair, but suspicions of embezzlement mounted. On June 20, 1947, assassins blasted him in his Beverly Hills pad, riddling the scene with bullets, probably greenlit by Lansky's circle. Almost instantly, operators like Gus Greenbaum assumed command, affirming the mob's unyielding control. This slaying declared Vegas neutral ground for various crews, laying groundwork for prolonged covert rule.
Building the Flamingo was like watching a high-stakes poker game unfold in real time. Siegel's vision was bold, but crossing his investors, that's what turned the dream deadly. I find it fascinating how one man's overreach opened the floodgates for the big families. The skim wasn't just theft, it was a sophisticated machine oiled by fear and loyalty.
The 1950s exploded with growth, mob money at the helm. Post-Siegel, Lansky, and Chicago expanded the Strip. Sahara in 1952, Sands that same year, Riviera by 1955, all propped by under-the-table Teamsters loans from Jimmy Hoffa, who emerged from 1930s labor battles. Accardo steered the outfit, perfecting the skim to shuttle millions untaxed eastward. Lansky captured the essence. True victors own the odds. The 1960s added gems like Stardust, 1958, and Tropicana, 1957, luring masses with spectacles and machines. Muscle was essential, though. Enter Anthony Tony the Ant Spilotro in 1971, born May 19, 1938, in Chicago to Italian newcomers whose eatery buzzed with wise guys. One of 6 brothers, Tony quit school young, earning his stripes in the outfit by 1963 through savage assignments. At a mere 5'5", his cruelty, infamous for vices and drills, commanded respect, succeeding Caifano. He safeguarded the skim, oversaw usury, and headed the hole-in-the-wall gang from 1971, burgling via wall breaches for gems and goods. Linked to Stardust manager Frank Lefty Rosenthal, born 1929, a betting whiz with mob bonds, this duo tightened the vice. Spilotro's era ramped up terror. Hits like investor Tamara Rand's 1975 slang over disputes silenced threats. But the feds closed in, launching probes like Strawman in the late 1970s, bugging vaults and compiling evidence for the big bust.
Spilotro's story chills me every time. Small guy, huge terror. It's a reminder that in the mob world, reputation was your real weapon, not size. The skim operations were genius-level fraud, but adding guys like Tony, that turned Vegas into a pressure cooker ready to blow, especially with the FBI watching.
As the 1970s wore on, the Chicago outfit's grip on Las Vegas tightened through intricate skimming operations that funneled an estimated $2 million monthly back to Midwest bosses by 1975. At the heart was the Stardust, where Frank Rosenthal managed the floor with an ironclad system. Cash from tables and slots bypassed official counts in hidden soft count rooms. Then couriers like Joseph Joey Ayupa, Accardo's successor, born in 1907 and rising from Capone-era enforcement, ensured safe transport via Kansas City intermediaries. Spilotro's role expanded, overseeing protection rackets that intimidated casino staff and rivals alike.
His hole-in-the-wall gang pulled off audacious heists, like the 1979 Bertha's Gifts burglary, netting over $1 million in jewels, using acetylene torches and insider tips. Meanwhile, Hollywood's allure deepened mob ties. Stars like Frank Sinatra, who headlined at the Sands since 1953, owed favors. Sinatra's 1960s Rat Pack shows masked ownership stakes for figures like Sam Giancana, Chicago boss from 1957 to 1966, whose CIA plots against Castro intertwined with Vegas dealings. "Vegas is where the action is," Sinatra once boasted, but behind the marquees, murders piled up. Spilotro allegedly ordered the 1977 killing of Kalata's rival for encroaching on territory. Lansky, semi-retired in Miami by then, still pulled financial strings, advising on expansions like the MGM Grant in 1973. This era blended glamour with grit. High rollers mingled with enforcers, and skim profits funded national rackets. Yet cracks appeared as Nevada regulators pushed for transparency in the late 1970s, and FBI agents like Joe Yablonsky began infiltrating, setting traps with undercover ops. The golden facade hit a ticking clock as loyalty frayed under pressure from greed and scrutiny.
The skim was like a well-oiled machine, pulling cash right under everyone's noses. What blows my mind is how they kept it going for so long without the house of cards collapsing sooner. Hollywood and the mob? It was a match made in shady heaven. Stars like Sinatra weren't just performers. They were part of the ecosystem that made Vegas untouchable for decades.
By the early 1980s, the FBI's Operation Strawman, launched in 1978, had evolved into a multi-agency assault on mob skimming, wiretapping count rooms at the Tropicana and Stardust with court orders obtained in 1979. Agents uncovered how Kansas City's Nick Savella, boss since 1953 until his 1983 death, coordinated with Chicago to divert funds. Estimates pegged $40 million skimmed from 1974 to 1983 alone. Spilotro's brutality backfired. His 1981 indictment for the hole-in-the-wall burglaries, stemming from a botched July 4, 1981 job where an alarm tipped off police, exposed crew members like Frank Kalata, who flipped as an informant in 1982, detailing murders and rackets. "I did what I had to do to survive," Kalata later testified, breaking omerta. Rosenthal survived a 1982 car bombing, likely outfit retaliation for his loose lips during investigations, but was blacklisted from casinos in 1983. Hollywood connections frayed too. Sinatra lost his gaming license in 1981 amid mob association probes. Lansky, indicted in 1970 for skimming but acquitted in 1974 due to health, died quietly in 1983 at age 80, his empire's architect gone. The feds ramped up with RICO statutes from 1970, charging bosses like Ayupa in 1985 for conspiracy. Spilotro's paranoia peaked. He clashed with superiors, leading to his June 14, 1986 disappearance alongside brother Michael. Bodies found buried in an Indiana cornfield on June 22nd, beaten and strangled, ordered by Accardo's remnants. This internal purge signaled desperation as trials loomed and witnesses multiplied. Vegas shifted. Corporate takeovers began with Howard Hughes' 1960s purchases, accelerating in the 1980s as mob influence waned under regulatory heat.
When Kalata turned state's evidence, it was game over for a lot of these guys. Betrayal from within, that's the mob's Achilles heel, and the FBI knew how to exploit it. Operation Strawman wasn't just surveillance, it was a surgical strike. I've studied these cases, and it's amazing how patience and tech turn the tide against the untouchables.
The mid-1980s delivered the knockout blow to mob dominance in Las Vegas. In 1986, federal trials under RICO hammered the Chicago outfit. Ayupa, now 78, and cohorts like Jackie Cerrone were convicted in Kansas City for skimming schemes, sentenced to 28 years each on February 21, 1986. Ayupa died in prison in 1997. Similar cases toppled Milwaukee's Frank Balistrieri in 1984 and Cleveland's connections, severing syndicate pipelines. The FBI's relentless pursuit, bolstered by informants like Kalota, whose 1983 testimony detailed 18 murders linked to Spilotro, dismantled the enforcement web. By 1989, the last mob-controlled casino, the Stardust, sold to Boyd Gaming amid cleanup efforts. Nevada's Black Book expanded in the 1980s, barred over 30 figures from properties. Corporate giants like MGM and Caesars Entertainment rose, transforming Vegas into a family-friendly mega-resort hub by the 1990s, with the 1989 Mirage opening signaling a new era. Yet, echoes lingered. Skim profits had built fortunes, and bodies like those of the Spilotros reminded of the cost. Over 25 mob-related killings from 1970 to 1986. Lansky's model of open city cooperation ended, but his quote endures: "We're bigger than U.S. Steel." Today, Vegas thrives on tourism, generating $79 billion in 2022, a far cry from the desert outpost Siegel envisioned in 1946. The Mafia's golden age forged Sin City's identity, blending vice with vision. But law's long arm reclaimed the Strip, proving no empire is eternal.
If you enjoyed this dive into Vegas's mobster past, hit that like button, subscribe for more true crime tales from America's underbelly, share with your fellow history buffs, and drop a comment below. Which Mafia saga should I tackle next? Your input keeps the stories coming.